Really wonderful to see you all back here in the second day of our second international webinar on the implementation of web-based reading instruction for the 21st century education. Uh, Now, after yesterday's session, it was really wonderful, and it's nice to see everyone back here. Now, the Honorable Chairman of Language and Arts Department, Bapak Androvic, and the Head of English Language Study Program, Ibu Eka Wahyuningsih, and our three respectable speakers, Professor Rob Waring, Kakak Daniel Adi Widyatama, and Ibu Made Adi Andayani. And I also see Paul and Ajar Mintra here back again. Hello, Paul. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, Ajar Mintra. Good morning. Nice to see you here. Thank you very much for coming back here again.
Yeah, my pleasure. Enjoyed yesterday's event.
Yeah, we do as much as you, right?
Never listened to Rob Waring enough.
Yeah, again, we are expecting him to give his wonderful presentation later. All right, thank you. Now, all praise may be to God, the Almighty, that again today we are gathered here together to witness the wonderful speakers that we are going to see today, the three esteemed speakers that I have mentioned before. Now, the agenda of today is about the same like what we had yesterday. So we are going to have the opening, and you are going to be listening to the national anthem, singing together to the national anthem and hymn of University of Jimber before you. And then there will be a welcoming speech from our chairman of Language and Arts Department, and he will also lead the praying. And afterwards, we are going to the presentation sessions from our three wonderful speakers, and then it's followed by Q&A later. All right, so in order not to make it too long, then let's start with the first agenda. Now, before we welcome Pak Anurofik to deliver the welcoming speech, I would like to ask Mr. Dave to play the national anthem. Hello, Mr. Dave, are you there?
Yes, Ms. Biskins, I can hear your voice. Thank you. And we're ready to go.
All right. And everyone, would you please, like what we did yesterday, place your right hand on your left chest when we are singing the national anthem together. Thank you very much, Mr. Dave. All right. Okay, the next agenda is the welcoming speech and opening remarks from our head of department. Bapak Anrofik, are you here with us?
Yes, could you hear my voice, Bu
I can
Bilkis?
hear you very clearly, sir. And after delivering your speech, would you also like to lead the prayer as well, sir?
Okay, my
Okay.
pleasure.
All right. Thank you very much. Time is yours.
Okay, thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Alhamdulillah, assalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, la hawla wa la quwata illa billah.
Hello, Pak Anur, are you there?
My very best. Hello, Bu Bilkis?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, sorry.
okay, could you hear my voice?
Previously I couldn't, but now I can hear you very clearly. Sorry about that.
Okay, probably there is a connection problem. So let me recite my best regards to Professor Rob Waring from Notre Dame Technological University, Singapore, and Kwansei Gakun University, Japan, and Daniel Ari Widyatama and Ibu Made Adi Andayani from University of Jember. My sincere regards to all participants of this international webinar, the teacher candidates, and other groups of people interested in this web-based reading instruction toward the 21st century education. Ladies and gentlemen, we are quite sad that just last night our government extend the restriction towards community activities, the so-called PPKM in short, to the next 1 week. Yeah, but learning and reading beyond the campus wall, as Pak Willy said yesterday, must go on. Ladies and gentlemen, yesterday we had such great, excellent presentation from Pak Willy and Paul. And today we are going to have 3 other presentation from Professor Rob Waring, Daniel Widyatama, and Bu Made Adi. So please make yourself comfortable on your seat and help yourself with snack and drink of your own. In this occasion, I would also like to thank the committee who have prepared this international webinar, Bu Eka and the team. And as the committee asked me to officially open this webinar by reciting Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, we will start the webinar very soon. And I hope that this webinar will run very well and we could reap benefits from all the presentation and the discussions. Ladies and gentlemen, as the committee also asked me to lead the prayer, so before the commencement of this international webinar, allow me to recite a prayer, and I will recite the prayer in Arabic. A'udzubillahi Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim wa barik ala Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Raditu billahi rabba wa bil islami dina wa bi Muhammadin sallallahu alaihi wasallam nabiyya. Ya Hayyu ya Qayyum birahmatika astaghis aslih li sya'ni kullah wala takilni ila nafsi tarfata ain. Asbahna wa asbahal mulku lillahi rabbil alamin. Allahumma inni as'aluka khaira hadzal yaum. Salamun alal mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Amin amin ya rabbal alamin. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much for the wonderful speech and the opening remarks, Bapak Anwar. All right, now let's see. Okay, now finally we've come to the sessions that we have all waited since yesterday, and this will cover the presentations from our wonderful speakers. We are going to start with Professor Rob Boring from Notre Dame Seishin University, Japan, and it will be continued by Kak Daniel Adiwidyatama from ITEL, and it will be followed by Ibu Made Adi Andayani from University of Jember. All right, now okay, thank you. Prof. Boring is here already. Now, before we go to the presentation, I would like to invite Mr. Dave as the moderator for Prof. Boring's sessions. Hello, Mr. Dave.
Yes, Ms. Bilkis, I can hear your voice very clearly.
Okay,
I hope everything runs good with the connections.
Okay, good. So looking good there. So I'll pass the floor to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Excellent.
Yes. So good morning, Professor.
Morning.
Okay, thank you so much for being here. It's a real pleasure and a real privilege to have you here, sharing your expertise and also experience in English language teaching and also research. Well, ladies and gentlemen, my name is David, and I'm going to be the moderator for the first plenary sessions in the second day of our international webinar. And in this occasion, we are going to hear the presentation by Professor Rob Boring. And before we begin with the presentation, please allow me to read the curriculum vitae of Professor Rob Boring. Okay, so Professor Rob Boring is an academia and professor at the Notre Dame Seishin University in Okayama, and he is an acknowledged expert in extensive reading and also vocabulary acquisition. Professor Rob Boring has published over 80 articles and has given hundreds of lectures, plenaries, featured speaker presentations in more than 32 countries. He is an executive board member of the Extensive Reading Foundation, responsible for the promotion of extensive reading at the world level. He is also the author and series editor of a 6 series of graded readers by various publishers, and has recently published Teaching Extensive Reading in Another Language with Polnation. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, we can now go on with the presentation by Professor Rob Boring. Professor, we have 60 minutes to cover the presentation and also the QA. Is that going to be okay, Professor?
That should be fine, yes. I'll try to finish in about 45 or 50 minutes or so.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor. All right, okay. So ladies and gentlemen, we present you Professor Rob Boring. The time is yours.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, good morning. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to thank Ibu Eka and all of the team for putting this together today. I'm looking forward to working with you. My topic today, as you can see, is called Different Types of Reading, Different Goals. I hope that you can all see my screen. If you can't, please let me know. I am a member of the Extensive Reading Foundation, which you can see the logo of here. And you can see that there is a QR code here. This QR code has the slides from today, and I will show it to you at the end so you can download them. So let me just start the presentation. The first thing to say is that my connection where I am is not necessarily very good, and I may cut out, and if I do, I apologize for that. And I can just find that I'm having a problem with my slides. Anyway, here we go. So this is to remind you of something we talked about yesterday, which was that from this week, we have the Extensive Reading Around the World conference, and Paul Nation is our plenary speaker. Please go to the ERAW, Extensive Reading Around the World, link on the 18th of September. Paul Nation again will be talking in Thailand. And then next year in Indonesia, August 12th to the 16th, we hope to hold the 6th World Congress on Extensive Reading. So please keep all of those things in mind. The Extensive Reading Foundation has been promoting extensive reading for a long time. And one thing that we do is to produce a guide to extensive reading. And it's available in many languages, including Bahasa Indonesia. So again, you can download that. As I said, you can have these slides later. There's going to be many, many links that I'm going to put into these presentation slides. You can click on them after you have downloaded the presentation. So, pardon me. Let's look at how students are typically taught to read. And yesterday, Pak Willie was talking about extensive reading and the need for it. And I'm going to talk about that in a similar way, but also in a way that would be directly relatable to teachers. So let's look at exactly how are many students taught to read. The first thing we need to notice is that they use a textbook, something similar to this. Now, your textbook may not look exactly like this, but it will probably be something relatively similar to this. Now, what are the features of a book like this? Well, the first, you can see there's only, what, 200, 300 words, maybe, something like that, not very long text. There are also some difficult words. You can see the words here are shown, and these are trying to be taught by the book. Sometimes definitions are given in the book, but after the students have done their reading, typically they would do exercises. Here we can see comprehension exercises, wording context exercises, and grammar down here. So there are many exercises that follow. Now, my guess is that your reading textbook and the one that you're using with your students looks something very similar to this. Maybe not exactly the same, but something very similar. So you can see here that the students in this particular class, this picture is taken in Korea, I believe, and you can see students working with their textbook. So the textbook is there on the desk and they're working, and I want you to look carefully at their hands. What are they holding in their hand? They're holding a pen. So this type of work is pen work or study, and we call this study reading. And a typical textbook would look something like this. This is the contents page from a book, and we have 8 units, and there's probably more units on more different pages. Let's look at the structure of this typical textbook. So let's look at just these first units here. If you look at this, you can see that we have different vocabulary, different functions, different structures and pronunciation, and each unit has a different topic. Nice to meet you. This is home abroad, my favorite things, whose clothes are these, and so on and so on. The vocabulary is different in each unit. The functions are different in each unit. The structures are different in each unit, and so on. And I want you to notice the importance of this and what this actually means in terms of learning. So a traditional syllabus design would have various units. For example, unit 1, and probably will start with something like the be verb. And there'll be some simple adjectives that the students will need to learn. These may be things like, you know, I'm cold, I'm hot, I'm sleepy. In unit 2 would have simple present tense. So we have new grammar and we have new vocabulary, and this is a new topic. In unit 3, we would have, again, new grammar, new vocabulary, and again, a new different topic. And you can see that this will continue across the syllabus. Now, if we teach in this particular way, it's important to notice that the learning goes in one direction. It's called a linear syllabus, and the word linear comes from the word line. And there's an assumption underneath this presentation of language. The assumption is that students will be taught something and that they will learn it. And notice that these daily routines, for example, are very unlikely to come again later in, say, unit 8 on a unit about, say, travel. These sporting activities are not going to come again when we talk about medical issues in unit 12. So what this is called is, the basic idea behind this is The theory here is we only need to teach something one time, because once the students have met it, they have then learnt it, we can move on to something new. We call this one-hit learning. And a lot of the language teaching that we do is like this, where every day we do something new, something new, something new, something new, something new. Now, of course, there's nothing wrong with teaching in this particular way, but there is a problem in terms of learning. So if we look at something that we teach, so if you teach, for example, 20 new words today, what is the number of those words that the students are going to be remembering tomorrow? Will they remember 20? Well, if you remember our previous slide, there's an assumption that yes, they will remember tomorrow. Not only will they remember tomorrow, they'll also remember next week and next month. Why? Because the book doesn't teach them again. There's no recycling. However, what really happens is this. Quite a lot of the language is forgotten quite quickly. And then usually like a week later or 10 days later, we're reduced to down 20% of those words or things that we learned are remembered. This is critically important to understand. This is called the forgetting curve. And if we go back to our unit that we saw before, what's going to happen to this knowledge? Well, clearly this is going to happen. So by the time the students get to the end of the course, they won't be able to remember what happened in Unit 2, Unit 3, and Unit 4, because the language was met once and dropped. There's one-hit learning. And this, of course, is something that is naturally going to happen if we teach in this new model that doesn't bring back the language again and again. So the problem with using only reading textbooks, the first problem is that quite a lot of the activities that we saw before are actually tests. The grammar activities are usually fill in the blank or multiple choice or something like that. And effectively, they're tests. They're not really teaching anything, they're testing. So we get this idea that reading should be tested. The passages are short. Obviously, the students are not going to be meeting very many words. If we look at a typical unit has, say, 250 words in the reading passage. If there are 12 units in a book, then they're only meeting 3,000 words in the year or maybe semester. That's not enough. So the words themselves are not met enough times to be learned forever. A typical word needs between 8 to 16 different meetings. But if you look at an analysis of course books, typically words are only introduced to 1 to maybe 3 times, rarely more than 4 times, but none of those is enough to meet that criteria of 10 to 16 times. Therefore, we're going to have forgetting. The next issue is that there's very few examples of grammar patterns. So if the book is teaching, for example, past tense or present perfect tense, there's probably only 6 or 10 or 12 examples in the whole unit about that tense. Maybe 20 examples if you're lucky. That's certainly not enough to learn all the nuances and the different meaning senses of a particular grammar pattern. The reading, of course, would be slow and intensive and intentional, and that's because there are things being taught. New grammar, new vocabulary being taught is going to slow down the reading. The other thing is that everybody reads the same material, and in any class, you're always going to have some students whose ability is higher than others and some students who are lower than others. The ones at the top of the class are going to get bored because it's easy. The ones at the bottom of the class are going to get bored because they don't understand. So you end up teaching in the middle, and 20 or 30% of your students are not being reached. As I say, the book will be too easy for some and too hard for others. It will be interesting for some or boring for others. Now, this is not meant to say that reading textbooks are bad, not at all. Reading textbooks are great. They're very good, but their job is limited. Their job is to introduce language, to introduce skills, to introduce vocabulary. Their job is not to deepen that knowledge. So we need more. So what material should we use to build the skill of reading? Well, the first thing we need to do is to recognize that EFL learners meet English only a few hours a week. This is very different from learning English if you're in Australia or New Zealand, where you can meet English all day. So we have to recognize they have a limited number of hours. They are learned in a class setting, and classes are not always very efficient and effective ways of learning. We also learned from before that students are definitely going to forget things. So students are going to need systematic recycling of vocabulary and grammar. The words and grammar in Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3, they need to come back again and in different contexts. And the words and the grammar need to be met again and again and again and consolidated and strengthened so students can learn the patterns of the language. Therefore, the input should build systematically on previous learning, the scaffolding. This has to happen. So the solution is to use reading materials, so picture books and storybooks. So we go back to our structure here. What we need to have is reading material that only is practicing this material. We've done Unit 1 and Unit 2. Now the students need to read books. After being introduced to the language, now they need to read books at level 1, which would introduce and would deepen and strengthen this knowledge. So these books here have only got the be verb and simple present tense. No present continuous, no can, no will, no past tense, only this grammar and vocabulary, which is being recycled and met time and time again. When students have read, say, 20 or 30 books at this level, they would be comfortable with it. They move to level 2. Level 2 books has new vocabulary and new grammar, plus the previous grammar and vocabulary. So it's building on previous knowledge. Level 3 would also happen in the same way, would deal with new grammar and vocabulary, but systematically build on previous knowledge. In this way, the learning is being structured and scaffolded so that it fights the forgetting curve. So you can see here that these two need to work together. We need to have the introduction of the language from our course books, and we need to have the deepening consolidation of that language through reading. But we have to read in a certain way. And yesterday we talked about graded readers. So graded readers are graded in the sense that they go from easy books to difficult books. So right at the very beginning as the start of reading, students would learn maybe with phonics. In the end, we go up the various steps and end up with native books. So how does this work? Well, students start with phonics books nice and early on. And then when they're comfortable with the phonics and some basic vocabulary, they can start to read Unit 1, level 1 books. They read 20 or 30 of these books, get comfortable with that vocabulary and grammar, then they read the next level. Their speed will drop a little bit because, of course, there's new grammar and vocabulary they're not familiar with. They then build on that knowledge by reading 20, 30 books at this level. They get good at that level, and so on, up and up and up and up, until eventually, well into the advanced level, they are able to read native novels like Harry Potter, Dan Brown, and so on. So the idea is that the books are stepped up, and these books are graded in a particular way. So what kind of books do the students need for extensive reading? Do they need books with lots of rare words and random selection of vocabulary that stand alone? They're not working together as a series. Books that are hard to read, or books that keep the reading speed slow? Well, clearly that's not the case. What they need are books with high frequency, useful words, written specifically to recycle and strengthen knowledge. The books that work together as a system allow students to read smoothly and easily and with confidence. So that's the type of books. And these are graded readers. These are storybooks that are written, both fiction and non-fiction, by a whole range of publishers. There are about 5,000 or 6,000 of these available, and they're available in paper versions or in digital format. And these are the publishers who publish these books, and you can find them in Indonesia if you go to your booksellers. Let's look at some of these things at the very, very easy level. You can see there's not many words. The classes, the patterns are repeated. In art class we, in art class we, in art class we. So structured repetition. The next level up, we have slightly longer text, but it's still present simple tense. There's a couple of new words being taught. Notice now that we have speech, and we have little mini paragraphs. The next level up, we have longer text, longer sentences, two-part sentences, a little bit more complex vocabulary, fewer pictures. And as we go up through the various levels, the texts get longer. We move to more paragraph style reading. The number of images gets less and less. And eventually at the advanced level, they're reading almost without any picture support and with lots of complex phrases, complex patterns, and so on. The books at the beginning level probably only would have 20 to 80 words in a book. And we end up at the advanced level with anywhere between 8,000 to 10,000 different words. These books are also available on X-Reading, which Paul talked to us about yesterday. X-Reading has about 1,400 of these books ready for your students to use. So the question is, how much reading should the students do? Well, we know that for beginners, if you look at the structure of the books and the vocabulary in the books, how often do these words come again and again and again? What we know is if we analyze this, and I could go into the depth of that at some other point, but we know that students need at minimum an hour a week at their ability level. At minimum, they need. And that's to find a good balance between strengthening and deepening knowledge before the forgetting curve kicks in, right? So we have that battle, the constant battle between meeting the words and grammar again enough times before they start to be forgotten. Intermediates also need a minimum of an hour a week at their ability level. But advanced students need 2 to 3 hours a week at their ability level. The reason for this is that advanced students already know so much language that they have to read a lot before they find something they don't know. Therefore, they have to read more to find this language, and the amount of reading increases with ability. So the next question is, how do I fit this into the curriculum? Well, there's 3 different ways that people fit ER into their curriculum. One is to have a standalone extensive reading class, or they have a reading club. So we have one class that's just extensive reading. Most teachers integrate extensive reading into a reading class or a speaking class. So they ask the students to do reading at homework, or a little bit of reading in class, and then they bring the reading experience back to the classroom and they integrate it. So, or sometimes students only read at home. The students come to class after they've read it, ready to talk about their books. They could write a report about the books, but as Pak Willie often says, students don't like reading reports, and I think teachers like reading reports even less. So, but reading, if you're being creative about the reading, you could maybe ask the students to write a letter that summarizes the story, or you might want them to write a letter to one of the characters. You might want to ask the students to rewrite the story in a different way, or analyze a character, or write about the favorite part of their story. So you can ask them to write about different aspects of it or talk about it. So the reading therefore becomes transfer into other skills like speaking, writing, and listening. A major question I'm often asked is, should the reading be optional or required? And I definitely suggest it's required. Why? Because if it's not required, students will opt out. They're busy. We have to remember that at base, our job as teachers is to provide the input they need. Yesterday, we learned from Pak Willie and from Paul that it's essential that the students do this reading. Today, I've talked about the balance between the amount of input you get in a textbook and the amount of language students need to learn. We need to recycle and strengthen that language. Students need to meet massive amounts of language. If we are not giving them an hour a week at least of reading, then we're not doing our job, to be honest. So also, students will not pick up the habit of reading if they don't do it. They can't be readers if we don't read. So students also, one reason they join the English class is to learn something about the world, to be world citizens, to be more culturally aware, and the reading can provide input that can give this to them. Reading also is probably the primary way that students will meet English in the future. It's the dominant skill. Most students will probably not speak very much, They probably won't write very much in the future, but they're more likely to do reading on, web pages or newspapers or menus. So building their reading skill is, particularly in countries where English is not the language outside the classroom, reading is probably the major skill to learn. The other thing that's very well researched and very well understood is that extensive reading helps to build transfer of skill to test-taking skills. If students can read extensively, they can read faster, they can then finish the test faster, and one reason that students don't do so well on tests is they simply cannot read fast enough. It also helps them to understand different text types, helps build their vocabulary, builds their reading speed, and allows them to be more efficient on tests. And this is very well understood in the research. The next question is, what do students need to do before they start extensive reading? Well, clearly, you can't just pick up a book on day one and start reading. Students, of course, need to be taught the alphabet, probably a few hundred words they can start to read after they know a few hundred words, or maybe just 100 and 150 words. They can pick up the very easy level books. Then they're going to need some basic grammar patterns, not too much. We don't need to be too serious about grammar. Just a few basic patterns. Word order is important, maybe the basic tenses, probably not much more than that. We probably don't need to go too much into the grammar early on, and maybe some phonics. Phonics may be useful so that students can sound out words, so when they hear them, they know what they say. So we need to build these quickly, but try to get the students to read as soon as possible. And there are graded readers that start from very, very low levels with only, say, 75 different words. So there are materials out there to help your students read. So how much reading should they be doing? Well, I've already answered that by saying one book a week at their level or more. But we need to understand that to be an advanced level student, students need to meet about 4 million words in total. However, an average intermediate level textbook only has 20,000 words. Now, that's not 20,000 words of reading. That's 20,000 words, of which 70 or 80% of that will be exercises. It'll be instructions and exercises, grammar explanations. That's not actually reading passages. The amount of actual reading in there, as I said before, is probably only 3,000 or 4,000 words. However, an average beginner level graded reader has 1,000 to 2,000 words. An elementary graded reader, just one book, has 3,000 to 4,000 words. And as you can see, if students are reading graded readers, they're going to meet a lot of language. So if we look at the amount of reading in an English textbook in 1 year, is probably equivalent of just 2 books a week. In 1 month, they would read these books, is the same volume of language or more than what they get in a textbook in a year. Clearly, this is going to be very, very, very beneficial for their learning if they're meeting this much language. So a question that came up yesterday, and I often hear, is people say, well, shouldn't we teach the grammar first? Grammar is important, as we saw yesterday, but we teach too much of it. However, vocabulary, lexical chunks, which Pat Willie mentioned yesterday, awareness of collocation and semantic conceptual knowledge is much, 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 much more important. A point that I made yesterday, if you're learning a new language and going to another culture, you don't take a grammar book with you, you take a dictionary with you. The major reason students cannot read or cannot understand is vocabulary. It's not grammar. We have to remember that grammar is not the center of language. It's not the center of language. Meaning is the center of language. And grammar makes sense only in conjunction with which words it's being used. The grammar can change the meaning of a sentence, and the sentence will be changed by the words. So it's very important that we understand that vocabulary is the main problem of our students. Our job is to enable language users. We're not building linguists. We're not building grammarians. We're building language users. Our focus should be on teaching grammar that only teach grammar that helps comprehension. Don't teach grammar for grammar's sake. Teach grammar that builds comprehension. How does grammar help comprehension? That's what we should be doing. Notice also that grammar is late acquired and can be best learned by quick explanation, then lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of practice. Note that many students can pass a grammar test. You can give them a test. They can get 10 out of 10, but it doesn't often appear in their speaking and writing. Why? Because they haven't met the grammar pattern enough. They haven't had enough experience with the grammar pattern. It just doesn't come out. Only after they've met the patterns enough times will they build a sense of how words and grammar go together. This experience builds speaking and writing skills. So let me ask you, many of you here are teachers of English. Many of you have been learning English or teaching English for a very long time. Ask yourself a question. Are you always sure of your use of the present simple tense, the past simple tense, the present perfect tense? Are you always right? Do you have perfect understanding of the articles? Do you know exactly how to use the modal verbs perfectly every time? Even after all of your years of experience, we still have trouble. So, and a lot of the reason for that is that many teachers don't meet enough English, or what they do is they focus too much on the grammar. So we need to move much more towards communication. Next question, how can I motivate my students to read? This is a question that came up yesterday. The answer is so easy. Find interesting materials. It will solve 90% of your problem. So what do you mean by interesting materials? Not interesting to you, but interesting to the students. So we really need to understand our students. We need to ask the students, what do you want to learn about? What's your interests? What are you naturally interested in? And if they're interested in, for example, skateboarding, or they're interested in travel, or they're interested in chess, bring something in about that. Their natural interest in that will help them fight through any difficulties in the text. They will also have great background knowledge, which will help fill in some gaps of communication. So make sure that you find interesting, motivating materials for your students. But you may say that my students don't like reading. That's fine. If they don't like reading, then get them to listen. There's lots of useful podcasts and things out there. So your question may now be, what do I do as an extensive reading teacher? Well, your job is actually very simple. A joke I sometimes make is that if you're a lazy teacher, extensive reading is your best friend. Now, of course, that's a joke. But once you've built your library, you only need to help the students choose their books, let them read, and then make them share. You don't need to teach anything. There's no such thing as teaching extensive reading, like teaching extensive listening. No, what your job is to facilitate this. And we'll come back to talk about that later. So your job as a teacher is to understand what you're doing in your reading class. Are you a study reading type of teacher, or are you an extensive reading type of teacher? Your role is different. If you find that you're doing phonics, you're working on the alphabet, you're building vocabulary, you're working with flashcards, helping them with spelling, or you're using a reading textbook that builds reading skills, students are doing exercises, follow-up exercises, comprehension questions, everything we do as a class, then what you're doing is pre-extensive reading, building the linguistic foundation and building intensive language knowledge. When you're doing extensive reading, your role as a teacher changes. You're no longer teaching anything. What do? You manage a library of reading materials. You monitor their reading, make sure they're reading enough, make sure they're reading at the right level. You're assigning follow-up tasks like exercises, discussions, maybe writing, and giving them feedback, helping them choose the right books and watching them read. So your role as a teacher is very different. So in summary, what we've talked about today is there are different reading aims for different reading needs. In study reading or intensive reading, As Pat Willie said yesterday, there's a difference between learning to read and reading to learn. If you're doing this kind of stuff, then you're doing intensive reading. If your students are doing this type of stuff, then we're doing reading practice. If your students have got a pen in their hand, you're doing study reading. If they have a book in their hand or a CD on their headphone, then they are doing this type of practice. So in a quick reminder quiz, which materials should be used for extensive reading? Storybooks or books with exercises? Well, clearly we should use storybooks. Should the reading be easy or a little difficult? Well, clearly, in order to build reading speed, it has to be easy, fluent reading ability. Should the students be reading quickly or slowly? Well, not slowly and carefully, fast and enjoyably should be the way that students should be reading. So they have to find the right type of material. Can they use a dictionary? Well, maybe sometimes is okay, but no more than once every 2 pages or 3 pages, something like that. If you need to use a dictionary several times on a page, then that's study reading, not extensive reading. There's nothing wrong with study reading, but too much study reading doesn't build repetition and recycling of vocabulary. So should the students be studying the vocabulary and grammar when they read or reading for fun? Well, clearly they should be reading for fun and practice. So to repeat, the reasons we must do extensive reading, and I put the word must in red there to show that we must do extensive reading. Now, do I mean that everybody needs to be doing extensive reading? No. But I do mean that somebody in your school must be doing extensive reading. Even if you don't do it, somebody in your school, some teacher in your school must be doing this. Some part of the school curriculum for the student must include extensive reading for all of the reasons I've said before and the ones we're going to see below. It provides massive fluent reading practice. It recycles important words and grammar time and time again to build long-term acquisition. We fight the forgetting curve. It consolidates and strengthens partly known language and builds reading speed, depth of knowledge, and it's enjoyable, so they will read more. So that's the main case. Now, the topic of the theme for these lectures is to do with web resources. And yesterday there was a question about some online resources. So I want you to just show a few of these to you. I have about 10 minutes left. So let me just show a few of these to you. So the first one I want to show to you is, whoops, my thing has frozen. Oh, here we go. Is X-Reading that we saw yesterday is online. That's a very, very useful site. And as I said, as Paul said yesterday, it's about $14 per student per year, which is extraordinarily cheap for literally thousands and thousands of books and millions of words of text. $14 a year, that is an absolute bargain. If your students can't afford that amount of money, then other pay sites are RazKids or Read Oasis or ReadLang. They're about the same kinds of prices. If you want some free resources, here is a long list of these. We'll look at some of them later. Again, when you download this, you can look at these links. Here are some more, and here are some more. Free listening resources. There's one called Elo, which is absolutely the best place to go for free listening resources. It is awesome. Please go to elo.org. So if you're going to choose some free graded reading sites, there are some great advantages of using free reading material. First, it's free. The second, it provides reading practice, and some of the materials are interesting. However, there are quite a lot of problems using free graded reading websites. First thing is that the authors don't get paid, so the quality of the material is probably not going to be that good. Quite a lot of the websites I mentioned before are actually ESL. They're designed for American or Australian children, not for our EFL learners. There's often lots of ads and lots of distractions. The students can easily get distracted. Not all of the topics are interesting. Sometimes the design is not particularly fun to look at. There are some boring topics. There's a relatively limited range of texts. The quality is varied, and often the texts are far too short for extensive reading, which means there's lots of clicking going on, lots of clicking from one to the next one to the next one. But the major problem, as I said before, is texts are not written in a system to build on previous knowledge. If your students have to go to 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 different websites, there's no way that you can build systematically on previous knowledge. There's no way the students can remember what they've learned. And there's no way for the teacher to track that information either. So it can be rather difficult. It's very hard for the teacher to monitor what's going on. So if you are choosing an online reading website, choose carefully. These are some questions that you should ask yourself. Does it have enough materials? Are the materials leveled properly so they systematically build on previous knowledge? Can the students find their level? Are there different ways to use the reading? Not just reading, but can you also listen? Can you do speed reading? Would your students actually enjoy these texts? Are the stories well written? Are they interesting? And can you as a teacher track what's been learned, and so on? So these are questions you need to answer. So one website that maybe some of you are familiar with is called ER Central. Full disclosure, this is my own website. This is a website that I've built. It is totally free, costs no money at all. There will be a few adverts on here, but honestly, the revenue that comes from adverts doesn't even come close to paying even for the data for this website. So this is a free website available for you. This is the landing page. There's a student area and a teacher area. In the teacher's area, there's lots of help about extensive reading. There's also a place for you to manage your students. You can upload your students onto the system. You can tell the students their password and username. The students do the reading. You can track all of this. All of that is built inside here. So do have a look. So if you go into ER Central, you would see the reading library. It looks something like this. You can see there's different story types and different levels. They would choose a text. They choose this particular text here. They can see more information about it, see whether the other students like it or not. And they can either bookmark it or read it. And when they read the story, here they go. They've got the text here. And if they click on any word, there's a built-in dictionary. There's a dictionary there which they can save the word to learn later. And they can return to the menu. After they've read, the students rate the material. This is very, very useful for the other students to find out which books and which texts were liked by other learners. Or they can take a quiz if they choose to. They don't have to, but they can take a quiz. And the quiz here takes just a few seconds, and the students will do the multiple choice quiz, and that will be recorded, and you as a teacher can find out if they've understood the text. From the listening library, it works the same way. They choose a text. This time, there is a listening passage where the students can listen or listen and read at the same time. There's also speed reading for the students to do as well. And in this speed reading activity, they click go and they click I finished, and you can time how quickly they read a particular text. Now, this is just an example. 578 words per minute is just because I clicked it very quickly. So this will record their speed. And again, you can track this. So please check out ER Central. If you want to learn more about how to set up this, there's a QR code here, which will be in the download for you to use later. So there are lots of materials out there, but as I said before, the material is not always very good. Commercially produced books and graded readers will almost always be better than the stuff that you find on random websites. So let's just look at a few. Now, be very, very careful about pirated copies. This is where somebody has maybe taken a book by Macmillan or Cambridge, and they've copied it. They've put it into maybe PDF form, and they're giving it to their students. I think there's quite a few problems by doing this. I understand why teachers do this, because access to materials is difficult. So the copies are usually very poor quality, very hard to read on a screen. Imagine trying to read a PDF on a small screen. It's really, really hard. Honestly, students hate reading PDFs on screen. The other thing too is that it gives a really bad ethical message to the students. Students will know the teacher copied them from a website. This means that the students understand that because the student was basically stealing this material, it gives the message that stealing is okay because my teacher does it. And I don't think that's a message we really need to be passing on to our students. So let me just very, very quickly flash through about 12 or 14 different websites that we can look at. I've got about 3 minutes left, so let's just very quickly go through them. I'm not going to pause and explain about them. Please look at the slides later and you can see this is LE graded readers. You can read them online. This is another website that has free material. This is an example of their material. Here's another website, and so on and so on. Breaking News English is very, very popular. They have text there for you to read and lots and lots and lots of follow-up activities. Reading Skills for Today is another website. English Club is another one. Here's another one, 5 Minute English, Global Access, My English Papers. And this one has videos with it. ESL Lounge, Bilingual Kids Spot, BBC. This website, English e-reader, can you please avoid it? This website has taken material from the famous publishers like Oxford, Cambridge, Cengage. They've copied it, put a different cover on it, pretending that it's their material when it's not. So please avoid this website. There's material here from Paul Nations at Victoria University of Wellington. This is British Council, ESL Bits, VOA News, Gutenberg, Read Theory, and so on and so on. So here is the QR code. Please feel free to use your phone to download the PDF file. I have finished what I'm going to be saying right now, and I will invite questions. Before I finish talking about my session, please feel free to use the material in the PowerPoint in any way that you wish. Also check out the ER website, the ER Foundation website. The ER Foundation website link is there. They have some materials for you to use to help set up ER programs. Please also consider joining the Extensive Reading Around the World conference, which is happening this week. We now have over 700 people for 100 presentations. There is everything from very, 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 very beginner level all the way to people who are very deeply into extensive reading. There's something for everybody, and there are presentations from Indonesia. So I'm going to stop sharing there, and I will now invite some questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Boring. That's truly outstanding presentation. And yes, we do believe that providing lots of information and unlimited access to reading and text to teachers and also students in different parts of the globe is going to be very valuable to help them build the culture of reading, be it reading for pleasure or academic reading. And so far in the chat box, we have a number of questions. We do hope we have enough time to cover all those details.
All right, so please tell me which ones you want to have answered.
Okay, we have, so far there are 4 questions. Let's begin with the one from Henny Rahmawati. The question is, can extensive reading affect positively the students' academic writing?
Yes, absolutely. There's absolutely no question. As I said to you before, that extensive reading and reading is an enabling skill. Now, if we look at what are the barriers to writing, what are the barriers to speaking? Well, the barriers are the students are not comfortable using the words or grammar they want to. Maybe they have something in their head. Maybe they know a little bit of the grammar. Maybe they know some of the words. They're not sure which word to use. And so what do? They can only write with what comes out of their head, what they have available for them. And the issue that students face is they're limited to what they can produce. There's a lot of knowledge in their head, but they can't get it out. So how do they get it out? Well, the benefit of extensive reading is that it provides massive experience so that they can learn the grammar more, they can be more comfortable with the vocabulary, and it will take them beyond that threshold where they will now be able to start using it. Extensive reading builds their comfort level so that now they will start to use it. And we all know as language learners that we don't use something in our writing or speaking until we feel ready, until we feel comfortable. It's an emotional point. Until we feel comfortable, we will not use something. We will avoid it or say something else or use a translation. So extensive reading builds that foundation knowledge. If they read a lot, there'll be more words and more grammar that they're more comfortable with, will definitely increase their reading ability and their speaking ability. It definitely has effects on the other skills.
Right, okay, so I guess the keyword is the comfort and also the development of students' language skills and competence in meaningful contexts. Yes.
Right. The other thing to say too is the more they read, the more familiar they will be with different text types. And the more familiar they are with different text types, the easier it is for them to write in different text types.
Okay, right. Thank you.
If I may add what Rob just mentioned about the relationship between reading and writing, the connection is definitely there. Students who read a great deal will be able to write better generally. But Rob also mentioned about text types. I think that is another important dimension as well. If you read a lot of novels, I think it will be easier for you to write fiction than to write academic, pieces of writing. But if you read a lot of, academic books, academic, book chapters, journal articles, chances are you will also be able to develop your academic writing skills. So the text type idea is very, very interesting.
Yeah, just to sort of take a little bit of an aside from what Pak Willie just said was we have to be careful in an extensive reading that we don't only just read novels. I think that's important because if you look at the vocabulary in novels, if you analyze the vocabulary in novels, particularly graded readers, they tend to be a little bit more like spoken language. They tend to use the sort of informal language, if you will. They tend not to have middle frequency words and low frequency words. And so there's going to be a limit. If you're only reading novels, you're not going to get many middle frequency and low frequency words. So it's very, very important that students meet non-fiction materials. Non-fiction materials which have middle frequency words, the technical vocabulary, and that will really build their vocabulary. So don't just do stories. Nothing wrong with stories. Stories are great, but they are limited. Once you get to the intermediate level, you need to be pushing more towards the non-fiction materials that will really build and strengthen your vocabulary.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Willie and Professor Rob Waring. I guess the exposure to the right text types and also text genres can be a really fundamental consideration for teachers, especially to help the students, develop through the right path and in order to develop their language proficiency. And especially for university students, yes, I think the lecturers in Indonesia are always trying to find the right models, the right text types, and also inputs for their students, especially the language learners. Okay, see, we still have some other questions, and this one is from Nurul Hassana, also quite interesting. This one is related to the assessment or the tests of extensive reading. So how would you suggest teachers to best assess the student's progress in extensive reading?
Okay, so there's two things there. The question as I read it here says, do we need to test the students in ER? So if I can go back to one of the key elements for choosing the student's level is students, when they're doing extensive reading, should be able to read fast, fluent, high comprehension, and don't need a dictionary. So when students are choosing a book, they've got a range of books in front of them to say, can I read this one? Can I read that one? They need to ask themselves the question, can I read this without a dictionary? If they can read it without a dictionary and they understand most of what's going on, then that's a good book for them. That will help build their fluency. So they've already taken the test. If they have looked at the book and decided that I can understand this, why are you testing them? You don't need to test that they understand because the test has already been taken by the student. Maybe what you need to do is to check that I've actually understood it in a different way. So you can maybe ask them afterwards and say, tell me about the story, or what did John do, or what do you think of what Mary has done? If they can't answer those questions, then maybe you know that they're not really reading very well or not reading carefully enough or didn't understand it. So you'd recommend a lower level. But I don't think we need to formally test them and quiz them. Again, the reason for that is because it makes it feel like this is reading equals testing all the time. And we need to stop testing sometimes and just trust our students to be able to read. Now, in some environments where there is a need to, where students are asked to read, but they're reading because they have to and they don't want to. Sometimes students may want to cheat a little bit. You'd say, did you read it? Yes, I did, but they didn't. So you may want to ask them to do a follow-up activity. So I would not suggest that you test them with a multiple choice test if you can avoid that. There is a very wonderful website called mreader.org that has thousands and thousands of test questions for your graded readers. And you can learn about that at the conference this week. However, multiple choice tests don't always actually check comprehension. They're not always a guarantee that somebody's understood. Much better to check if they've understood is to ask them to talk about the book or to write about it or to reflect on it in some way, to give a presentation. And I suggest that for those students who are maybe reluctant readers, I would suggest that you assess the student not on the words that they've read, not on their test score, but assess them on the task that follows the reading. Could they tell the story well? Could they write about the story well? Could they make a good presentation? And in order to do that, they must have read the book. In order to check that they've actually done the reading, they have to do something. So even if students are reading the same book together and they cheat by talking to each other about the story, the follow-up activity means that each student has to perform. So that would definitely make them read. The second part to the question about assessment is about assessing their ability. Does their ability increase? It's a different form of assessment. How can we show gains in extensive reading? Well, there are many, many different ways to do that. One is, can you notice that your students are increasing their difficulty level? Are they moving up level? That's one way to find out. The second one is to maybe do a speed reading test. So at the beginning of the semester, take a graded reader from the library at about the student's level. Let them read for 5 minutes and see how far they get. Maybe they've read 650 words in 5 minutes. Take the book away, give it to them again about 3 or 4 weeks later. They carry on reading from the same place and read for 5 more minutes. Does their reading speed increase? And again, test them later and later at the end of the semester. And you can measure does their speed actually increase with the same book? Notice that you're using the same book across the whole semester. Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, Chapter 4, Chapter 5, because it's equal difficulty. Don't test them on different tests because of different texts, because of course there's going to be difference in speed depending on the text. So use one graded reader to test them for different speed gains. But I think far, far more useful for teachers is not the numbers about the amount of words they've read, their reading speed. What's really important is the student's affective reaction to the reading. Do they enjoy it? Are they having fun? Do they feel they're making progress? Do they feel that the reading is actually enjoyable? Are they seeing a difference in the way that they speak? Are they seeing a difference in the way that they listen, the way they write? These are very important questions because this is what really matters to the students. Numbers can hide true feelings, and I think it's important to have this. The student recollections are really important because if they feel they're gaining, then you can get those students to talk to the teachers who don't believe in extensive reading. Introduce them and say, look, listen to my students. This is what they think about extensive reading. Don't listen to me, listen to my students. And you'll find very, very frequently that the students who do extensive reading, generally speaking, have higher levels of motivation. That, of course, their vocabulary and grammar is going to increase. Some of them struggle to find time to read, but it's important that we encourage them to read. And we don't get angry with them about the things that they're reading, but do check they're reading at the right level, where they can read without a dictionary. That is the key for extensive reading.
Yes, okay. Yeah, I think I do agree with you, Professor. The key to assessing the extensive reading forms of our students is actually engaging students in meaningful and also communicative language activities where they can actually use the language inputs and language resources for their real and meaningful communication. Yes, and I think personally, that is going to be much more applicable to EFL context or EFL setting, where they don't have enough exposure to the language. So therefore, extensive reading is going to be a powerful resource and input for them to build the model and also to build their competence in speaking and also writing, be it in the context of academic. Extensive reading. Yes, I think your answers also address another questions from Ms. Asi Sandihasuti, because this also related to different activities to monitor students' progress in when it comes to real classroom, teachers find it a bit hard to analyze and also determine students' interests and further bring the interest into the curriculum framework. So how will you suggest teachers to better analyze the students' interest as a starting point for developing extensive reading?
Well, of course, you have to ask them. You ask them what they're interested in and get them to bring in things. So what you can do is you can say to the students, as a kind of show and tell, you can say, bring in 3 or 4 things which are really interesting to you from home. And that way you'll find out that they're interested in, various topics, maybe games, or it could be they're interested in dinosaurs, or they're interested in whatever. Or if they can't bring things from home, maybe a picture of something, and maybe do a show and tell. In that way, you can get the students to find out from the students what the students really like. You note those ideas down and then go and find some materials for them. There are lots of websites you can go maybe find some articles on dinosaurs or whatever. Or you can read them. You can write some of these activities for the students. One activity that I do with my students sometimes, not at the junior level, but more advanced intermediate level, would be to ask students to print out something from the internet that they want to read. Maybe it's about dinosaurs, or maybe it's about a recipe, or maybe it's lyrics of a song. They print it out. So they really like this song by Justin Bieber. They print it out. Of course, there's going to be some difficult words in there. So what they then do is they go through the text with a dictionary and write on the paper the words that they don't know in their mother language. So Bahasa Indonesia, for example. Then what the students do is they bring it to class. So it's already got their name on it and it's written with their translations. They then explain this story. This is a story about, this is Justin Bieber's song, or this is about dinosaurs. And they explain it to their friends using some of the language from the text. Now, then what happens is this text is given to the second student. The second student can now read it easily because the first student has already translated some of that. The second student can also write on that paper any words that he or she doesn't know. And they give it to a third student. The idea here that is, if everybody brings in 2 or 3 texts like this, and they do it for a semester, by the end of the semester, you have hundreds of student interest, student-generated material that they can read. And you have done absolutely nothing. You've let the students do all of the work. Now, you can help them. Maybe you want to spend 5 minutes in class helping them do this activity, but that's a way to find out what students are interested in and get the students to grade the material to make it easier for other people to read. That's one of the easiest ways to build an extensive reading library of student interest material.
Yes, thank you so much, Professor Boring. Yeah, that's going to be really insightful, especially for
David,
teachers and teachers. Yes,
David,
Dr. Willie.
Yes, people like us teachers, we often say things like my students are not interested, my students are not motivated, and things like that. But we forget, because the starting point will have to be us. The starting point will have to be, am I an interesting teacher? Am I a motivating teacher? Because that is always the most important thing. If you are perceived as an interesting teacher by your students, I think chances are very high that your students will also become very interested in your lesson, in your stories, in the kind of books that you are reading. So start with you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Willie. I think
Interest
setting
and
the right model
motivation
for
is
students.
very, very infectious, just like a virus. Very infectious.
Yeah, of course. Totally agree with you. Thank you. Right. Yeah, okay. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Willie, and also, of course, Professor Boring for the insightful presentation, and also.
Can I just finish with one thing, just to say that,
Course.
to remind you one more time, this week there are about 100 more presentations on extensive reading online. Many of them will be on the Extensive Reading Foundation YouTube channel. I put 2 up yesterday, one of which is almost identical to the one that I did today for you. I recorded it last night. And so please join us if you can. Many of the sessions will be recorded. It's very, very cheap. I think it's $5 or something like that for 5 days of extensive reading. It's a bargain, an absolute bargain. So please do learn more about extensive reading. And I look forward to seeing you online this week.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor. We look forward to that. Right. Yes, we have so much, fun and also learning so many things from your presentation, and also from the suggestions from Dr. Willie. But unfortunately, we don't have enough time to cover more QA sessions. So, ladies and gentlemen, could you please join me to give a big applause to Professor Rob Waring. Thank you so much, Professor. And before we end up these sessions, please allow us to show you a token of appreciation to the outstanding Professor Rob Waring. Right.
Oh,
thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll just take a screenshot of that.
Yes. Well done, Professor Rob.
Thank you, Willie.
We look forward to learning again with you. Like in the next occasion, probably next year.
Please invite me. I hope from next year I'm going to be a lot more mobile. I'll be based in Southeast Asia and can come to Indonesia regularly. So I hope to meet some of you in person.
Thank you so much.
Particularly at the big conference next year in August. I will be there.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much. Right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be the end of our first sessions with Professor Waring. And next, we are going to proceed to the next plenary session. And the next session is going to be led by Ibu Eka Wahjuningsih. Ibu Eka, can you hear me?
Yes, Kak Dev.
Yes, okay. The time is yours, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Rob and Pak Willie. Thank you very much for giving us some more insightful information about what we have to do with extensive reading. Now, Bapak Ibu, let's come to the next presenter. That is Kak Daniel. Kak Daniel, are you here? Kak Daniel?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm here and ready.
Yes, Bapak Ibu, before having his presentation, let me read his curriculum vitae. So, after this, we are going to be with Daniel Ariwidiatama, and he is a lecturer in Universitas Mercu Buana Yogyakarta, and he got his S1 degree from Universitas Sanata Dharma Yogyakarta, and also his S2 degree from the same university, and now he becomes Kepala Bagian Kerjasama Luar Negeri in Universitas Mercu Buana Yogyakarta, and he is also a Director of Program and Development from ITEL, or Indonesian Technology Enhanced of Language Learning. So I think that's all that I can say about Kak Daniel, and without further ado, let's welcome Daniel Widya Tama. Time is yours, Kak.
Thank you very much, Ibu Eka, for a really brief introduction of me, and also thank you for the invitation. It's an honor for me to be here among the great speakers, great experts in extensive reading. And I also thank to the whole today's presenters and also yesterday's presenters, Pak Willy Renandia, and then Waring, and also Paul Goldberg. So thank you very much. Today I learned so many new insights that I think it is a really special moment that I learned 1,000 times. From Sanata Dharma. And I also can of them are actually my experiences and my own experiments. Okay, is it showing, Ibu Eka?
Yes, Kak.
All right. So before I start my sharing, I have to say that I'm quite nervous right now, since it feels like I'm having a final examination in front of great speakers and my great lecturers. So, all right, but then show must go on, right? And okay, so I have 30 or 40 minutes for my session. Well, we are happy to invite you to join the conference in 2022 in Jakarta. So, and I actually one of the ERA members, and as you probably know that we are actively conducting some programs to encourage our society to read, especially to support gerakan literasi nasional. As we can also there to be actively joining the program. And it is sad today that we probably couldn't do this for a moment. Yeah. So these are the activities we did with some students, some participants of Era Membaca program, and we had some graded readers there on the table that all participants can choose one and read at their leisure time. And we followed that with a small discussion talking about what book they read. And last year, we also had a virtual book club, yeah, with the students of English department. So this is based in USD, Sanata Dharma University. This pandemic time seems to not stop us to encourage students to read. Hence, this activity should be promoted, should be encouraged more and more and more. And I do agree with Prof. Rob Waring that with some points that, on the whole points that he mentioned earlier, the proficiency of students later would really depend on the book they read. And for today, I would like to share how to encourage them to read, and also to motivate them to read through different strategy. And these are probably some great moments that we had during Iram Baca activity. We had so many children joining the program, and we were so happy at the time with a simple program that we conducted, but surprisingly, children loved it. And that's why I love joining this community, and we welcome you if you are interested to join us for sure. And in our study program, we also had an activity called Books Talk, that we invite children, most of them are children, that we met unintentionally, okay, around the public places around Yogyakarta, and we had a book discussion on that. We just let them play with the book and then read the book they love. And yeah, sadly, we cannot do that anymore today. But yes, we should not stop here. We should find different strategies, different ideas on how to encourage students to read. And to start with, I have a curiosity to ask you, would you please mind to share your thoughts about what problems that you encounter while encouraging students to read? Would you please type your answer on the chat box, and we will have sort of discussion on that. Maybe you can just give a short answer or a brief description on the problem that you commonly face. So, Bapak Ibu, I invite you to share your thoughts, please. Okay. Or maybe I'd like to ask Ibu Eka. Nah, so you probably have wondered why I'm starting at you. I'm starting at everybody, by the way. So Ibu Eka, what happened to your class? What happened to you when you are encouraging your students to read?
Actually, I want to say that yes, I have to improve the students' motivation. But then go back to Pa Willy's statement just now. We cannot say that our students are not motivated, but we have to do a reflection whether we are motivating motivating teacher, or whether we can motivate our students to read. But yes, I think during my teaching and learning process, I think I give them some examples that I often read something. Then I do hope that by looking at what I'm doing, then my students are going to imitate what I'm doing. That is, have a willingness to read. And it seems to me that one of the previous student who is successfully in imitating what I did so far, what I have done so far, is here. Later, I'm going to mention his name, but then go back to you, Kak. So if I may say, the first thing that I want to say is that their motivation. I don't know what happens, but when we try to read, to ask them to read, then yeah, perhaps 10%, only 10% of the whole students, they are going to say that it is a very thick book. It is, the vocabularies are too difficult for us, man. I think that's what happened.
Thank you very much, Bu Ika, for the sharing. I guess you just made a great point there that in order to teach reading well, then we should start reading. We should start being a good role model. Isn't it what you mean?
Yes, Kak. I
Okay.
believe that a teacher should become a model,
good.
a very good model for their students.
Right. Okay. So you just mentioned one term that was motivation. Yes. So I made some my own justification on in my experiences. We had some problems here in motivating students to read. Probably students, because of students like interest in the books that they read, or because they have limited number of readers or any stories, any storybooks, and maybe they have uh, met a wrong strategy implemented by their senior high school teacher or their lecturers. So I do agree with Pak Willy and then Prof. Waring and also Wigan that just mentioned that most of the time that what we actually encounter is because students didn't have enough resources. They read wrong books, and also that leads to a really poor of motivation that they have. So before going to the next stage of my sharing, we would like to have this game first for a while. So for now, for my session, I may not talk a lot, but we will play a lot because my topic is related with how to gamify our reading class with some simple applications. Okay, so this game is called Room Races. So I believe that I already opened it. Allow me to share my screen. Is it showing, Ibu Eka?
Yes, Kak, I can see it.
Okay, probably I need to turn on the share sound. All right, so let's have some time to enjoy this game for a while. As its name suggests, so what you are supposed to do is to choose the right main idea. Okay, so I'd like to have Bu Eka will be my forever partner today. So Bu Eka, would you please choose which main idea should be best for?
Sorry, Kak, the sound is too loud. I cannot listen to your voice. The sound
okay.
of the game is too loud.
All right.
Okay, so what do you want me to do?
Okay, please kindly choose the right main idea.
The right main idea.
Which should best with the rest of the paragraph. You can shoot in the dark, by the way.
What should I choose? Oh, this one. The one on the trees. Jerry is curious, Jerry is picky, and Jerry is mad. Okay. Jerry opened up the refrigerator but did not find anything that looked good. His mom offered him some fruit, but that didn't sound good either.
Okay, I'd like to invite the other participants as well, audiences as well. Okay.
The first one, Jerry is curious.
Jerry is curious, but what do others think about this? About the answer?
Because his mom offered him some fruit, and then perhaps he wants to know what fruits what fruits offered by his mom.
Okay, so let's go to your answer. Jerry is curious. All right.
That's the game.
You made a good try, Bu Eka. Okay, let's see what others attempts. Yeah. Jerry is picky. Jerry is picky. So let us see which answer is correct.
Jerry is picky.
Okay, right. So I'll give you one more try, Viveka. Or you can choose somebody else, by the way.
Adif?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so choose
Kak
either one.
Dave, what do you think will be the right answer? On the wrong answer.
The wrong
Both are
answer.
correct for
I
now.
think I would like to choose the
Don't
wrong
give
answer.
him don't give him the correct answer, okay? Give him the wrong answers.
Okay, so first I need to read the text in the cloud. Am I correct?
Yeah, I could see on the chat box that so many of you are trying to hit the right answer as well. Okay, or you can cheat the chat box, Mas Dave.
Okay.
Okay. To.
I guess my answer is going to be living things need energy.
Okay, so let's
Because
give it a
text
try. Yeah, so congratulations. Okay, so
thank you.
After having this kind of game, well, this game is intended to check student understanding on how they could define, how they could find the right main idea of text. So, what do you think when you are playing this game, and what features are coming from this game?
You ask the students to find the main idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they have to think about some of the sentences that you gave in the cloud, so that they have to choose the best choice.
All right. So, what other thing that that you might find this game is helpful for learning, especially on the particular topic?
Motivation.
Motivation. How could you say that?
Yeah, because usually students like playing games. They like playing online games. So perhaps you think that why not take them into a situation in which they play some games, but still we can have our subject in our game.
Okay. And what happened to you when you hit the right answer?
When I had the wrong answer, then I feel my place is not correct. But then when
you got you got like like reinforcement, like brilliant and try again. What do you feel when you get that kind of message from the game?
A little bit motivated, a little bit more motivated.
All right, thank you, Ibu Eka. So yes, everybody loves playing games, and I guess most of you here could tell me what games you have ever played when you were a child, or when even just now. I guess I'm also a game player. I like to play PlayStation with my best friend. So we all love playing games. My question is, why do we love playing games? Okay, can somebody make a guess? But I thank you for giving some responses on the chat box. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. And most of the answers are just so correct. Okay, so why again do we love playing games? Okay, are you playing games, Ibu Eka?
Yes, Kak.
Oh, really?
I think by playing games, we can also, something that we have in front of our eyes are not only sentences, but we also see some features, some characters, so that it is not boring. So we try to see the characters, we try to see the features, but then we also have something that we have to read.
Okay, so your guess is just right. And the other things might be because it is a safe place to fail, as you experience, right? So it is okay to make failure, and then it can build relationships when you are playing online games, maybe with your colleagues, and of course, it emerges full of excitement, and it has a competitive, aspect there. And again, it is relaxing and also fun. So I'm just curious to combine the excitement of playing games and all of these concepts into reading activities. And I wonder if we should give it a try, at least, but not ignoring the whole main principles that Paul Goldberg just mentioned yesterday, and also Prof. Waring and also Pak Willis mentioned. But is that going to be possible if we try to merge the two? And I'm trying to highlight the sharing with a theory, okay, gamification, that it is using game-based mechanics, aesthetics, and game thinking to engage people, motivate action, to promote learning and solve problems. Well, this is a complex idea, I guess, but again, this always tells me, will that be possible if we try to combine this concept into reading activity in general or in extensive reading? And I have another description from Rupak and Hunter, that the principle of gamification that we will use is all the game elements and game design technique, which is embedded into non-game context. All right, so there are some elements in gamifications that we normally have. First of all, is the defined set of rules. So we have some rules that we need to obey. And then the clearly articulated goals, of course. It's like designing a learning or a lesson, actually. And then the feedback system that we can find, which in turn will motivate the game player. And in this case, it is students. And the freedom to fail and try again. This is, I guess, very important and so motivating. And to tell people that to make mistakes is just okay. Right. And then the other benefit is that, of course, to make students more involved and active and motivated in learning. So I'm thinking that by combining the principle of gamification into reading activity, this can do the same thing, as students will be more involved in the reading activity itself. And of course, we need to pay attention on the text that we chose, whether this can be, understood easily by students, that the vocabulary is just accessible, as I already mentioned yesterday, and some other principles. Okay, so the other principle that we should not forget is that the immediate feedback that a game could provide to the learners. So I guess these all concepts, if we could package them into one simple activity, will eventually engage students better in the activity. All right, so I guess we need to skip this one, but anyway, you guys can try this Grammar Gorillas. Okay, this is another fun game, which has nothing to do with the reading activity, but just in case you are still curious to know about the game's effect while you are playing this, then you can just give it a try. Okay, so for now, I would like to come back to an idea mentioned by Prof. Waring, I guess, in his ER Central website, that keeping high levels of motivation is a key successful to reading. It's important not to overwhelm the students at first so that they do not feel negative about having to read. So I certainly agree with this, that we should not give them too many but sufficient amount of text or stories or readings, graded readers. Okay, and now how to implement gamification in our reading class. So I guess we have, I propose some steps here. That first of all, we need to find out a particular lesson objective, and then followed by the learning indicators, of course, if we would like to apply this in a formal context. And for example, I want my students to tell me the main idea of the story, and then the learning materials should be well chosen. That's why doing a survey, asking students what they like to read is very important here. Until we come to the game mode that we would like to provide, we have so many game modes around. We have multiple choices, we have matching, we have some more applications to provide game, we have learning apps and so on. So those are the media that we can use to transfer the gamification into reading activity. And like I did a few days ago, I asked my students what they like to read, the genres that they love, and if they also love playing some games and what games that would be. So I found some interesting answers here, that some of them also love fantasy genre. Some of them found that they love Harry Potter. They love a novel, I guess, by Alfi Shahrin, and one of them also loved playing Dragon Nest, an online game. So this is what I'm doing before I come to this decision. Okay, what game should I make, and what game should I design for them? And also, of course, the genres that I need to provide to them. All right, so, and then I come to a conclusion that I probably will go into this game mode, so-called role-playing game or RPG. So as McKay 2001 suggests that this is a concept of game that we can make an episodic story, okay, that we create by ourselves, and we can create fictional characters on that. And for now, today, that we can create this for free without coding, without downloading. Isn't it awesome? So without further ado, then later after this, I will show to you what RPG game is like. And this is the benefit of implementing RPG into our reading activity, that into that game, we can let students to debate, to solve the problems that we provide, that they also can learn about teamwork, diplomacy and stuff. And okay, so I think I should go to the next slide. Do I still have some time, Ibu Eka? How much time do I still have?
Around 15 minutes, Kak.
All right.
Or if you also want to share your way, then you are going to need some time.
Okay, sure thing. Right, so are you guys ready to join this game? Okay, is the audio too loud?
Yes.
Is it too loud?
Yeah, it's okay.
So this is the role-playing game that I created. Wait a minute, I need to restart the game because I didn't move. Right, so I guess there is something wrong with this game. Wait a second.
Kak, the sound is too loud.
Oh, the sound
Your
is too
voice
loud.
is not too loud, but the sound is too loud.
Is it okay now?
Yeah, okay.
All right. Okay, can somebody tell me, have you ever played RPG game before while having minutes? I need to figure out what's going on with it. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Okay, so it worked so well. All right, so basically, I've made a decision before I created this game. As just I mentioned before, I had to create a storyboard. I had to convince myself that the text I chose is just fine for my students, and finally I chose Jack and the Beanstalk story that most of you have ever read before. So would you please have a look at the screen and see what's going on with the character. So here I start with I name it Hero because I couldn't just rename the character. So okay, so there is a discussion there. It will take some time to move. So I'm Hero from Jember Island. I'm looking for Princess Helena. Okay, so I basically had to create my own story here, and she's in the castle now. If you want to see her, you must give it some challenges ahead. Okay, I'll give it a try. Right, and then you can see that we basically could design these all settings. Okay, and okay, we met another creature here. Hi, sir. Hi, I'm Kobu, the castle keeper that nobody could pass through. Only the one who does my command will remain alive and can enter this gate leading you to the castle. What should I do, sir? So, I believe that if students are playing this game, they are not only enjoying the environment, they are not only enjoying the atmosphere built through the music, but also to learn from the text provided by the game. And the dialogue keeps going on here. So in order to see the princess, you need to listen to my story entitled James and the Beanstalk. Somebody will ask you some questions about the story later. Okay, I listen to that carefully. So in this stage, Kobo tries to explain what Jack and the Beanstalk story is like. Okay, hence it appears on the screen, the story. Right, so as the gamification principles suggest that the level should increases, hence students will find it more challenging and they will have more engagement into the activity. All right, so let's see. All right, so here we have another mission to accomplish. Wait a second, I have problems with the... Okay, it's solved. So we need to meet another actor here. Hey, what's up? You must be hero. Okay, so before coming to the next level, we need to defeat the current challenges. Right? And our mission is to save the princess there. But again, it's not easy. We have to defeat this warrior. Okay, and then we still have another creature to defeat here. Right, so again, the story continues and it goes that way, like the previous one, that each actor would like to reveal the rest of the story. And the challenge is here, we have to survive. Okay. Or let us just leave this creature and get the princess away. Hold on a second. So we have a door to escape there. Okay, it's a bit laggy. I'm sorry. I don't know what's happening to this session, but let me skip to the next level. Okay, so if you are curious to know how to make such a game, then this is actually the behind the scene of the game. Yeah. So let us move to. This is the place where we already passed. Right. Let's assume that we have defeat all the creature. And then we come to another stage of life here. I guess there is something wrong with the directions. Okay. So on this final level, so we have something to solve here. Okay, so this is the rest of the story that the main character is trying to get. And I'm just imagining if my student is playing this game and they can happily, you know, read the story. Okay. And I hope there will be no technical problems during the game. Okay. Right. And the next step is to access this link. Right. So this link is actually containing one other task they need to solve, which is this one. What would be the end of the Jack and the Beanstalk story on your own passion. Okay, so this is the way we combine the game with another post-reading activity. Okay, so I'm trying to merge three-sider into the game, and well, that is possible, right? And if you have fulfilled this task, you can go to the next task here to see the king. And surprisingly, King Edward gave a question to Hero that he would like to know what he knows so far from the story. So it seems to me that King Edward tries to measure, okay, what or how students, how deep the students' understanding from the story. Okay, so let me give a try. All right, so this is the immediate feedback that should be provided by the game. And of course, it's okay to fail and it's okay to make mistakes. All right, so let's give it a try one more time. And let's choose the next item here. Okay, so what would be the reward? Yes, I got a little daughter here. Okay, and yes, so this is actually a concept that I'm trying to bring about today. The concept of gamification that is embedded into our reading activity. And would you please share your thoughts and probably your comments on the chat box. And I do apologize for the technical problems that happened during this game, but I guess it's not a big deal, okay? And the other great thing is we can just share the link to somebody else, okay? Your students, your colleagues, your friends. To you, of course. Okay, so are you curious to try, Ibu Eka?
Not yet, Kak.
Okay, but are you curious to try?
Yes, of course.
All right.
Especially my son is next to me.
Okay. Yeah, so let me back to my slide for a while. Okay, so yeah, so if you have some problems in finding out the books that you will provide or promote on the RPG game that you would like to build, if you are interested to, then I agree with Prof. Waring. I actually a big fan of Eric graded readers because there are so many great books provided for free, and you can just flip it. And of course, X Reading and Reading Central are two great websites that would be our next place to have and to have some time to read the books with while having a cup of coffee. All right, and I'd like to promote some other post-reading activities that I just presented on my game. It was actually changing the or making the alternate ending of a story, but actually you can try these all ideas to give the right title for the story. For example, or finding a song which has similar ideas to the story, or change the ending of the story or alternative ending, and then make a virtual book club activity would be so much fun. Or to ask your students to draw an object or make a poem which represents the feelings after reading the books or story. And you can visit my YouTube channel, of course. I make some tips and tricks on how to use technology for to engage students in learning. So don't forget to subscribe and give some thumbs on the video if you think it is helpful for you. And last but not least, I'd like to probably I forgot something here. I like to, okay, you can also have this one. So this is called word wall. If you are currently conducting a virtual book club with your students, then this is a good thing that you can use these wheels containing of some questions that your students are about to answer. Suppose that we are all reading the same book, and then we are sitting together in a Zoom, okay, and we choose one question to each student, or everybody will have different question to answer, or we can just have one question for everybody. We can just always modify this. So I think I already come to the end of my session. Well, thank you very much, Ibu Eka, and then FKIP Universitas Negeri Jember, and all the committee who has done a really sophisticated job in making this event to happen. And I'd like also once again to thank Paul Goldberg, and then Professor Rob Waring, and Pak Willy, also Ibu Ida for the great chance. And I'm feeling so honored once again, and I hope to see you in the near future in person, hopefully. So stay healthy, stay happy, and stay awesome, everybody. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Kak Daniel. And it seems to me that from the comments in the chat box that so many people regards that one or think of your game that it is almost the same as Harvest Moon.
Oh, really?
I never played that game, but I used to play Gardenscape and also Homescape. But my son also used to play a Buildingscape. In that game, we also have to communicate with the features in the game, and we have to do some different things before coming into the next level. So there are some questions here. I will take one question from Prof. Waring. These look like games. These look like games for natives, and also EFL learners may have issues with background knowledge and vocabulary. So are there RPG games made for EFL learners?
Okay.
Are there
so,
any RPG games made for EFL learners?
all right. So thank you, Prof. Waring, for the question. As I went through the chat box session on the YouTube channel that the founder of this game got, so I actually have learned how to develop RPG game for weeks, and until I bumped into this game. And there are some questions as well from people from different countries. So, and the answer from the founder is, it's not yet possible for now. That's why I try to use the features that I hope students could still understand what kind of thing it is, what kind of situation it is, and so on. So yes, this is a very common question that also came to me, and I hope that in the near future the founder would solve this issue. And the good news is the platform is called rpgplayground.com, and it is free to use, no coding, no downloading. Because in 2011, I used a similar platform, okay, but we had to play with the coding, and it's frustrating. It takes 3 hours or 4 hours in order to make one activity, one one map. But for me, this is much easier, and I believe that everybody can always try. This might be not easy for you at first, but as soon as you get used to it, this will be much easier, I believe. Ibu Eka.
Yes, Kak. And some other questions are coming from the ones who asked me about the time that you spent to create a game. So how much time did you spend to create a game? Bapak Ibu, for your intention, Pak Daniel is one of the members of Technology Enhanced Language Learning. It is an association dealing with technology in the applied in the teaching and learning process. So that is why we can say that he is an expert in dealing with the technology. So that is a question, Kak. How much time did you spend in creating that game? Or how much time we should spend, especially because we have to match everything with the objective, the students' needs. So how much time did you create that game?
Okay, so for me, it took like in total maybe like 3 hours to make the whole game to be ready to perform for our students. But again, if you already have the storyboard, if you already have the ideas, that might be shorter than that. But for me, it is worth trying because I can use this game forever. Okay, because in some other platforms, maybe we need to subscribe, we need to buy the premium, package. But for now, it is free to use. Maybe it takes like an hour or so at first, but we can use this on and on and on for any chances in the future, I guess. So it's really worth to try it.
That is for you, but for us, and also perhaps for so many people in this webinar, in this in this program, then perhaps it is going to take them more than 3 hours to create their games, especially because we have to know our students' need, and we also have to know the objective, and also the students' needs, and also we should try to make it more challenging for our students.
Yes, and the answer, my response for that is really simple. I got your back. So let's just learn together, and I'll be happy to help. And maybe some of you will give it a try, and yeah, just keep in touch and let's explore more benefits from these games.
Or I think it is, we need a special occasion, we need a special webinar for you to have a workshop with all of the audience here. Another workshop, I think. Yeah, Kak Daniel, there is also one question, especially when we have a game for our students or for our children, then there are some sentences or some scripts, then usually or very often the students or the children are going to skip the sentences. They are going to do the next one. So what do you think about that one? Because usually the sentences are a little bit a little bit long. So they are not going to read the text. They are not going to read the sentences, but they are going to do the activity, or perhaps they are going to read the last sentences, because usually the last sentences is telling them about what they have to do next. So what do you think?
Yeah, so in my opinion, we can always solve that with, for example, we can give them the part of the text prior to the game before, so they will be aware of finding what is the next story after this. So I guess students have to be we need to set them to be aware of the purpose of the game. It's not only to give them a pleasure, but also they have a responsibility to take care of. Okay, so for example, in this case, like the story, we can actually give them part of the game, part of the story at first, maybe on the WhatsApp, and then they are supposed to find out what is the next of the story, and then they will be, you know, they will not skip any sentences. I guess they will just pay attention to the details. They will play it carefully until they come to the next level. So this is another tips if you think that they will be carelessly click the button and stuff. So the other thing is we need to remind them, we need to check whether they have totally understood, because we have a three-sider at the end that will check whether they completely read the whole story, not just enjoying the music or the environment, but they totally read. Yeah. So any strategies will work, I guess. It depends on the context and situation.
Yeah, so before giving the game, before asking the students to come to the game, then it is better for teachers to give, or is that to give the introduction about the game. And I think we can also give the introduction through three-sider, because I think three-sider can also be used to give feedback and also pre-reading. So we can post something, then we can ask the students opinion about that one in three-siders. Is that Kak?
Yeah.
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 And talking about the word wall, it seems to me, it seems that it is a little bit, what is that, like wheels of names, because in doing wheels of names, we what is that, we not only write down the names of our students, but we can also write down the activities that we can ask the students to do. So write down or stick a picture in the wheels of names, then we spin the wheel. Then when it comes to something chosen by the wheel, then we can ask the students to say something about what is it, to say something about what is pointed in the wheel of name. Is it, Kak?
You nailed it, Ibu Ika. So we can attach any pictures on there, okay, and we can have as many as, I don't know, I have tried like 12, and we work together in deciding these questions before we conducted virtual book club back then with Ibu Mita and Mas Thomas and some ERA friends. So yes, you can pick some pictures, you can pick some great questions here, and just one click away. Yeah, and spin it. As easy as ABC. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is almost the same as the wheels of names. Yeah.
Wheels of
in this
names.
case,
Exactly.
yeah. In this case, you have the word wall. So, Bapak Ibu, finally, yeah, I think there is no more questions in our chat box. Then finally, Bapak Ibu, we come to the end of Kak Daniel's session. We have got the information, a very interesting information about what is it, how to gamify our reading class, and we also have got some information about the technology that we can use in our class, that is three-sider and also a word wall or wheels of names. So I do hope that all of you, Bapak Ibu, you are willing to try to have or to utilize those applications, those websites in your teaching and learning process. So Kak Daniel, thank you very much for giving us a very challenging and a new insight for us, for especially for reading teachers, for reading lecturers, and I do hope that we can apply all of the information that we have from Daniel's session in our teaching and learning process. Before coming to the end of this session, I think Kadif is also going to show you something, the token of appreciation. Kadif? So once again, Kak Daniel, thank you very much for giving us the material. Thank you very much for coming into this session. And I do hope that we can see each other in Jogja next time in ITER conference.
Amin. Thank you very much, Ibu Eka, Kak Dave, and all the participants of today's webinar. Thank you very much. Stay healthy. Thank you.
Okay, Bapak Ibu, that is the end of Kak Daniel's session, and I am going to give the floor back to our Master of Ceremony, Kak Bilkis. Bu Bilkis, are you here? Bu Bilkis?
All right, I'm here back online. Thank you very much, Becca, for handling everything. And thank you very much for Kak Daniel and Prof. Boring. Before, I'm sorry because I was cut, the internet was cut and I was not be able to be here. But that was really wonderful and insightful knowledge that we get. All those games, the RPG, it sure brings back memory about Harvest Moon that I used to play a long time ago, but it was really fun. And we can also use simulation games, if I'm not mistaken. The name, like, where you have to survive the game and you have to choose between choices, and that would be impossible for the students to skip reading the instruction, because if they do not read it, they will not be able to succeed, and they have to consider the characters of the characters that they are facing. So it really needs lots of reading comprehension to play such a game, and your game is also wonderful. Kak Daniel, thank you very much for being here. We always appreciate it. We are always happy when you're here. All right, now let's move forward, and we are going to have our last presenter, this beautiful and the only lady that we have in the board of our speakers, Ibu Made Adiandayani, as our next speaker, and the session will be led by Ibu Areta Puspa. Bu Areta, are you here with us?
I'm here, Ibu Bilkis.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
All right, I'll pass the floor to you.
All right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the session with me. I am Areta Puspa. We'll lead you in the last sessions. In the first sessions, we have been talk on extensive reading with Professor Rob Waring, and the second sessions we have talked some ideas on reading activities with Kak Daniel. And in the last sessions, we have the wonderful and amazing topic entitled "Reading for Young Learners in Online Setting" with Ibu Made Adiandayani. Okay, before Ibu Made talk more, I would like to read her curriculum vitae. So Ibu Made is senior lecturer on English Education Study Program, Faculty of Teacher Training and Education, University of Jember. She got bachelor degree from English Education Department Undiksa on 1987, and she earned master degree from Lathrop University, Victoria, Australia. On 1998 until 2013, she has been English language consultant from in primary schools in Jember. And okay, Ibu Made, are you ready? Ibu Made?
Yes, can you hear my voice?
Okay, yes, sure. Okay, Ibu Made. Okay,
thank you
you
very
will
much,
share the screen. Okay, yeah, okay. The time is
okay.
for Ibu Made.
For how long, Ibu Areta?
Yeah, you have 40 minutes, including Q&A.
Okay, 40. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Yes. First of all, I need to say thank you to Bu Eka for giving me a chance to be in among the fantastic speakers, Pak Willy, Mr. Paul, Prof. Rob Waring, and Pak Daniel. Okay. When Bu Eka wanted me to say something in this webinar, I said, what's the topic? Okay. Bu Eka said, Bu Made, you can focus on young learners. All right, young learners. Okay, thank you very much. But now I'm not teaching students in elementary schools anymore, not teaching young learners in language sector. But then I have several subjects related to young learners in our English department. Okay, thank you very much. Why young learners? That's very interesting. Oh, at the connection. Excuse me. Okay. Why young learners? It's very interesting to me because young learners are very different from adults. Okay, now first let me show you the screens I have. Just a moment. Okay, this is a topic, reading for young learners in online settings. Is it possible? Okay, the teachers will say, yeah, it's possible. Of course, okay, why not? In online settings, it's very different from real classroom. That's what I'm curious on. When the teacher says, yeah, but then I've got problem in teaching reading to my students in elementary schools. Okay, I understand that one. Some teachers told me that the schools use Google Classroom, but then most of the students do not participate very well in that kind of teaching learning process. And then some students don't have mobile phones, even they live in the city, in Jember. Okay, what's the problem? Because the schools, okay, the teachers told me that since there is zoning system for students entering the school, the teachers got problem most of the time in online teaching learning process because some students, okay, this is a real one. Some students don't have hand mobile phones in the family, okay, and some students need to borrow mobile phones from the neighbors. Okay, it's just surprising because they live in the city. Okay, so that's what I want to talk about. Is it possible? Yeah, this is my name. Just call me Made. I'm from Bali. In Bali, people don't call me Made because there are lots of Made. Okay, when people call me Made, all people with Made will say, yes, are you calling me? Okay, so here, just call me Made. And I'm from University of Jember. Actually, there are four things that I'm going to discuss here. First one is who belongs to young learners. Okay. And the second one is English subjects in elementary schools. And the third one is problems in online teaching learning process. And the lucky last is whether there are any solutions. Okay. Let's go to the first one. Who belongs to young learners? When we talk about young learners, we talk about the fourth years children entering schools. At the age of 5 to 6 or 5 to 7, they go to kindergarten. And at the age of 7, they go to elementary schools. Okay, so here I consider young learners belong to students who go to elementary schools at the age of 7 to 12. Okay, thank you. Before we teach young learners, we need to understand the characteristics because teaching young learners are very different from teaching adults. I had experience teaching children in Melbourne for 2 years, and I also had experience teaching children in elementary schools in Jember for almost 20 years. Okay, they are all different. They're all different. So I need to understand the learning styles because each individual child, each individual student is different. Some students like to be touched, okay, by the teachers, and some students like to talk, and some students like to do something like attention-getting behavior, and some students, okay, they are so unique. Now let's see, what are the learning styles? There are 4 actually. Some students belong to visual learners. They like to use image. They like to use graphic colors. Okay, when they learn something, they can't learn just only hear or listen to the teacher's explanation. And the second one is auditory learners. They like to listen, they like to hear, and they can learn by hearing or listening. Okay, maybe you are thinking of which one do I belong to? Okay, what about my children? Something like that. And the third one is tactile learners. They like artworking, they like scribbling. Okay, so the teachers need to understand when there are some students like doing arts or scribbling on their notebooks. The teacher's not supposed to get mad with them, okay, because that's the way the students learn. And the lucky last is the kinesthetic learners. They like to learn by doing, by touching, manipulating. But most of the time they belong to poor listeners because they like to do something. So as the English teachers for young learners, we need to understand those 4 things, okay? We need to we are not supposed to get mad every time the students want to touch something. Okay, for example, we bring toys to the classroom, and then the teacher or we explain about the animals, the toy animals, and then some students who belong to kinesthetic learners like to touch the toys. Okay, if that happens, okay, the teachers need to understand. Okay? Don't say no touching, no touching. Tidak boleh. You are not supposed to do that. Okay. When I taught English in Clifton Hill primary schools, I usually bring toys, or I borrow some toys from schools. And then some students say, Ibu Madi, can I touch the toys? And I said, yes, if you're good, you can touch the toys. If you listen to me, you can touch the toys. Okay. That's the difference between teaching. Sorry, okay, I don't want to say that Indonesian children are not good. No, okay, that's the difference between teaching children in Clifton Hill Primary Schools, Melbourne, and teaching children in Jember. Okay, my experience. Okay, when I told students in Jember, no touching, please. Okay, I'm going to let you touch the toys when you do this and that. Okay, but they don't listen. They just grab and then touch the toys. Okay, but when I taught English in Clifton Hill Primary Schools, and then they say, okay, I understand, and they're waiting. Okay, then I consider that teaching children are very unique. Okay, when they like it, they are going to say, I like it. Okay. When they don't like it, they are going to say, I don't like that one. Once I got very a bit stressful. Okay, I like sewing. Okay, and then I made my school uniform by myself. That's in summer, and then I sewed it, and then I wore it to school. And what happened? Okay, the children said, Madi, you wearing new dress? And I said, oh yeah, you like it, huh? Okay, I made it by myself. And most of them said, I don't like it. Oh dear. I want to show this is my stuff. Okay, but then they said, I don't like it. And from that moment, I never wore that kind of that dress. Okay, it's just that different. Okay, but teaching university students are very different. They say, yeah, I like it. Oh yeah, that's good. But then we don't know what happened inside their mind. Okay. Let's see. English subject in elementary schools. I remember my very first time learning English in the first grade of junior high school. That was in 1970s. Okay, it's a long time ago. And we didn't learn English in elementary schools. But then I forgot the year. Okay, English is taught in elementary schools, and I was so happy with that one. And I heard that the government initiated the program called Rintisan Sekolah Bertaraf International, or maybe in English we can say Pilot International Standard School. So here the government wanted to improve the quality of education, and all students in elementary schools need to learn English. All teachers, if it's possible, need to teach in English. I mean, need to teach their own subjects in English. Okay? That's hard. It's hard. Okay. And when I help my friends teaching in language center, Jember University, a group of teachers from junior high school in Jember wanted to practice their English. They need to learn English because the following day they need to teach. They needed to teach their students in English. Okay, one of the teacher, he was the sport teacher, said, "Ibu Made, I want to resign." Okay, I said, "Why?" Okay, "I can't speak English. How can I teach my students sports in English?" Okay, oh dear. And then he learned English from us, okay, in the language center. But then, unfortunately, the Pilot International Standard School, which was started in 2003, needed to be stopped in 2013. Okay, I don't want to tell anybody here about the reasons why, but then frankly speaking, I'm very sad, okay, because I realized when the students learn English at the first year of elementary school, and they had a good model, their English is going to be good, okay, to be fantastic, okay. I experienced teaching groups of students from grade 1 to grade 6, and for 6 years, okay, I accompanied them learning English in elementary school, and when they were in grade 6, their English is still good, okay, fantastic. But now it stopped, okay. I don't know why, okay. Now English is supposed to be an extracurricular, and it's only taught once a week for about 35 minutes. You can imagine what material can the teacher teach, what language skills, what language components can the teacher focus on, okay. It's a little bit hard, okay. Now let's see number 3. That's the problems. Yeah. Where are you? Okay. Oh dear, it's gone. Sorry for that. Okay, what are the problems? Okay, when we talk about what's number 3? Okay, problems in the teaching learning process. Okay, what are the problems? When we talk about the problems, most of the time teachers blame the students, not the teachers. Okay, the students. Okay, the problems come from the students, not the teachers. As Pa Willy and Professor Rob Waring said that we need to see ourselves whether we have done our best in teaching our students, our children. So the problems may come from the teachers, from the students, from their parents, or from the technologies we have. Okay, so lots of things that may influence the problems in the teaching learning process. So if it's possible, the teachers not to blame the students. Okay. What about the solutions? Any solutions? Yes, of course. Okay. Yes, of course. So far, the teachers, as far as I know, from my interview to several teachers from kindergarten, junior, and senior high school, most of the time they use WhatsApp and classroom, Google Classroom, most of the time, okay, and it worked, okay. When I asked them whether they use some kinds of platforms, they say, how can I do that, okay? And they have to do the teaching learning process by using Google Meet or Google Classroom, and they have to pay the internet, okay? So they didn't do it from schools, okay? Yes, that's true. Some schools in Jember require all teachers to go to the schools every day, and they have to teach by using Zoom meeting or Google Meet. from schools. But what happened with the teachers who are not provided with that kind of facilities in school? So they have to pay. Okay. So that's a problem. Now let's see. I'm interested in the first one. Okay, KISS. Yeah, keep it simple and keep it simple, sister. Okay, you don't need to worry about. Number 2 is do your best and forget the rest. And number 3, model it. Okay, learning never ends. And number 4, think outside the box. Okay, what's the meaning of keep it simple, sister? Okay, some teachers get panic when they have to use technology, when the principal wants them to use a technology in teaching English. When the principal says, please make our students be able to speak English, okay? But then you're not to, and I mean, the teachers not to be worried about that one, because we have, or they have, or the teachers need to keep it simple. Simple for the teachers, simple for the students, simple for the parents. Make it simple. If the teachers are not able to use that kind of platform, if the teachers are not able to link the material to some other links that are suggested, okay, so the teachers need to be creative how to make the material simple for the teachers, simple for the students, and simple for parents. Okay, the parents here are supposed to accompany their children learning from school, from home. Okay, and if it's possible, let's not dump too much technology on yourself. Okay, so keep it simple in all things. Okay, okay. I'm telling you later. Okay. Now let's see the second one. Do your best and forget the rest. Okay. The teachers may be trying new technology, and they may be trying it with students, and they may feel awkward. Okay, they don't need to worry about. You don't need to worry about that. Okay, just do your best and forget the rest. Okay. We are all in this.
Jam berapa nih?
Sorry, Bu Eka.
Oke, sorry Bapak Ibu, tolong di mute ya.
Oh, okay.
Yang tidak berkepentingan.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Mohon maaf.
So,
you can continue your time.
basically, the teachers are not supposed to be worried about this one. We are all in this situation together. Okay. And number 3, show the students that learning never ends. Number 3, model it and learning. Okay, learning never ends. Okay, we have to show the students that learning never ends. If you make mistakes because you click the wrong thing in a Zoom class, just don't worry about it. It's not anything to be embarrassed about. It's an opportunity for you to say, I'm going to learn something here. Okay, this is how life is. Okay, just don't feel afraid of saying sorry. Okay, as far as I know, some Indonesian people don't want to say sorry. Okay, but I remember the words sorry and thank you are always used by people in Western countries. Okay, sorry, always sorry. Okay, and number 4, think outside the box. Okay, try to realize that we are not in schools anymore. We are not in the classroom anymore. So everything's going to have to be very radically different. So we need to realize that one. If we have understood all these 4, I bet all the teaching learning process, online teaching learning process will go well. As Mr. Rob Waring said that the students need to learn alphabet and phonics. Okay, that's what I want to say. Okay, I remember my daughter learned English by phonics when she went to an elementary school in Melbourne, okay, and it's just interesting, okay. For example, the teacher focuses on the phone, on the phonic, on the phone, okay, okay, k sound can be spelled like C, sorry, C, or k sound can be spelled as K, or CK, or CH. So the students need to learn a list of words, need to read a list of words with k sounds which occur initially, medially, or finally when they are in the words, okay. And also reading a story from a book. Sorry, okay, this is just hello. This is just an example, okay. This number 4. Okay, number 5 is interesting for me. Reading familiar nursery rhymes or songs. Okay, it's impossible to teach reading in isolated way to young learners. It's impossible. When I teach reading, I have to combine with nursery rhymes. I have to show the games so that the children feel happy with me in the classroom. This is the example of the nursery rhyme. It's not that common, but then my students love it. Okay, when I explain about the playgrounds, okay, the playgrounds, we can find lots of things in the playgrounds, and then I have a nursery rhymes like seesaw, seesaw. Okay, and they love it. Okay, because while playing, while modeling the rhymes, I have to move, and then I have to show the pictures of the seesaw, something like that. Okay, and the rhyme is just like this: seesaw, seesaw in the playground, 2 legs up and 2 legs down. You go up and I come down. That's for grade 1, and it's just that fun for them. Okay, and the following day or the following week, when they come to my class, and they came to my class, they said, Bumade, I remember that one. Seesaw, seesaw in the playground, 2 legs up and 2 legs down. You go up and I come down. So it's just that fun. Okay. Also, when I play bingo games with my students, not that long. Okay. I'm talking about a real classroom, not online classroom. Okay. I show the bingo games. I've got okay, lots here. Okay, about 50 bingo cards, and then I play with them, and it's and they love it. And while playing, I'm going to show. I showed a bingo song, bingo rhymes. Like
Sorry, Bumade.
There was.
Sorry, Bumade, you have 10 minutes left.
Oh, 10 minutes. 10 minutes or 5 minutes?
10.
10. Okay, thank you very much. Okay. They like playing the bingo game, bingo games and bingo songs. Okay, like there was a farmer had a cat, and bingo was his name. Oh, B-I-N-G-O, 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 and bingo was his name. Oh, and then we do lots of variation, like we cross the B, and then every time the letter cross is crossed, we need to change it into clap. Okay, like I-N-G-O, I-N-G-O, something like that. Just that fun. Okay, thank you very much. I have to be very quick. Okay, I've got some links for you to share. Okay, we can find some books here, and my friends also shared the links to me. Okay, actually there are lots more. Okay, but I haven't written down here in my slides. Okay, unfortunately things change. Okay, in some links, okay, we are only allowed to read for 1 week, and after that we have to pay. Okay, we have to pay. The books are very fantastic, and it's good for children, but actually, as Pak Willy, Mr. Paul, and Prof. Rob Waring said, and Pak Daniel said, okay, maybe most of them are for extensive reading, okay, but I think this is a very good collection for the teachers to choose. Let me see. Okay, I made screenshots for each of them that I have already showed in the previous slide, and I want to show actually what we have in the first page. Okay, this is very interesting, and the teachers need to explore to find out which material they are going to choose for the students. This is one of the screenshot about the title of the story is about monkey. I forgot that one. Okay, and each on each page there is a small sentence, a short sentence, like here's a monkey. Chico is a monkey with a tool belt, or something like that. And this is very interesting for the learners to read. Okay, but then the problem is how to motivate the learners, how to motivate the students to read. That's the hard thing, I guess. It's very hard. Okay, books. Okay, not all not many books provided in the library. Okay, in schools. Okay, and now we have lots of collection of books, but then most of the links provided here, as I showed to you, we need to pay. Okay, that's the problem. And I remember, I understand that the earlier the parents introduce reading materials to their babies, their children, the better the result will be when they are big. Okay, when they have babies, when you have babies, okay, it's going to be very good to introduce books from since they are very young babies. Okay, there are lots of books like soft books. Okay, the size is this big, and it consists of about 10 pages or something like that, and it's washable and it's safe for the children. Okay, so to make the students curious or motivated in learning in reading, so we need to introduce reading materials since they are very young. Okay, and this is the lucky last. Okay, the planning for success in EYL programs, like what Pinter said, there are 4 effective EYL program models. Okay, all right. Ibu, Bapak, and ladies and gentlemen, maybe you need to understand that English teachers are not supposed to teach in elementary schools in Indonesia. They are planned to teach English in junior high schools. But then, because English is taught in elementary school, so most of our students teach English in elementary schools, teach young learners in elementary schools. Okay, so the program models must be effective and appropriate. Train EYL teachers. Okay, Bu Eka, I'm very happy with you because we've got, I guess, a good curriculum, and in that curriculum we have 10 credits for our subjects related to young learners. Okay, and also culturally appropriate materials. Okay, yeah, we all understand that one. Okay, culturally accepted, and the continuity of curriculum between primary and secondary English. So we have to consider lots of things before we want to make our students learn, make our students be able to speak English, and let not blame students. Okay, we need to understand that what do I have to do, what did I do, okay, what am I doing, what do I have to do for the next lesson, what have I done, was that good, okay, am I a good teacher, am I interesting, am I interesting to the students, okay, Okay, lots of things. Okay, as all you know that teachers are not supposed to be beautiful or handsome. Okay, but the most important thing is how to make the students learn and happy with you in the classroom. Okay, thank you very much, Bu Areta. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ibu Madi, for the wonderful topics in these sessions. Okay, Ibu Madi, actually, we have 3 questions from the audience. Okay, so I would like to read the first questions from Ibu Hirfatul Jannah. So what is the best way to teach kinesthetic learners in a diverse class? At the same time, sometimes another students disturb another learners' activities and disturb the concentrations in the classroom.
Okay. Okay, this is very interesting question. Based on my experience, I think this is good. Okay, but then when I practice it in schools in Jember, the principal said, "Bu Madi, what are you doing to my students?" Okay, I said, "I want them to listen to me." Okay, and the principal said, "We are not using that kind of rules." Okay, I said, "Oh, so sorry." Okay. Sometimes that happens to the students. Okay, they like disturbing people. They like disturbing their friends, something like that. Okay. I followed the way the principal and the teachers in Clifton Hill Primary Schools give rules to their students. Okay. In the very first meeting, the teacher discussed or talk about the rules they are going to apply in that class, okay, in that subject. And then I said, oh, that's a little bit strict, okay, but then it worked, okay. For example, I remember this one. I'm not going to say, hey, you in the corner, please, shh, quiet, okay, listen to me. And then they're quiet. But then on the other corner said, la, 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 and then I said, excuse me, you're not listening to me, something like that. Okay. I never used that loud voice when I taught Indonesian. I didn't teach English. When I taught Indonesian in Clifton Hill Primary Schools for two years. Why? Because we had rules, okay? I said it for the very first time in the very first meeting, we discussed about the rule, okay? What if you don't listen to me? What if I mention your name twice? What if you didn't listen to me 3 times or something like that? Okay, that's the rule. Okay, I can write their names on the board, or after a few some reminders, I'm going to, as what we agreed, the students I agreed with the rules. Okay. There is a rule where it's a little bit strict, okay? Make the students to stay outside the classroom, okay? I need to call their names or his name and stay outside the classroom for 5 minutes. Why? Because I want him to think whether what he has done correct or wrong, okay? And after 5 minutes, I'm going to check him, and then I had to greet him. I had to be friendly to him, okay, and said, "Hi, okay, so are you fine? Are you ready to join my class?" Okay, some students will say, "Yes, Bu Made, I'm ready." Okay, and then I'm going to, and then I held their hands and then let them in and join my class. Okay. That's good, okay. And also I use instruction like when they are noisy, I said hands on the table. Okay, I don't need to say excuse me, hello, listen to me. I don't say that. Okay, I said hands on the table. Okay, something like that, and they listen to me, and it means that attention, please, something like that. Okay, and it worked. Okay, when I did it here and in Jember, and the principal said, "Bu Made, don't let that boy outside the classroom." Okay, but actually he was under my supervision. Okay, I checked him, but then the principal didn't want me to do that. Okay. All right. So that's the way. Okay. If it's possible, never ever ever shout to the students in the classroom. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bumade. So I think that it also covered the question from Juaria that talking about asking about how to facing the four styles of learning. And then the next question, Ibu Made from Pak Fendi, are there any fixed syllabus for teaching English at elementary and kindergarten levels?
A syllabus.
Yes, syllabus. The fixed syllabus is there.
Okay, it's hard to say. Okay, I also help kindergarten teachers teaching English for about 1 year in Jember. Okay, and frankly speaking, it's tiring. Okay, there is no syllabus, and then I had to create lots of reading material, lots of materials that are very interesting, and make the students interested in learning English with me. But then 1 year is enough. Okay, it's tiring. Okay. For elementary schools, there was one, Pak Fendi? Is it Pak Fendi, Bu Areta? Yeah, there was one.
Yes, Pak Fendi.
Yeah, there was one when the government initiated the pilot international school program. Okay, but now when it's gone, the curriculum is gone, and then the English teachers, as far as I know, the English teachers in elementary schools in Jember just use the books that they have already got before. Okay. Yeah,
Okay,
sorry for that.
Yeah. One more time, Ibu Made.
Thank you.
Do English teachers have to teach grammar to elementary students? What do you think, Ibu Made?
Okay. As Pak Willy and Prof. Waring said, no grammar, please. No grammar, please. Okay. I think I agree. I agree, absolutely agree with them, with Pak Willy and Prof. Waring. Okay. And grammar is not that interesting for young learners. Not interesting. And I don't teach grammar to young learners. Okay. I give models. Good models, and then they are going to imitate, and they are going to follow me. As I told you before, when there was RSBE, okay, and I experienced teaching those groups of students for 6 years, and in grade 6 their English is good. Okay, it's just fantastic. Okay. And when it stopped in 2013, okay, I cried. I cried. Okay, but then I couldn't do anything. Okay, I just motivated my friends to teach their children English very well at home, and provide the materials or anything. Okay, because lots of materials are there, okay, in the world today. So that's it. No grammar. No, please, no. No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Ibu Made, I do agree with you that no grammar for the young learners. Okay. Thank you very much, Ibu Made. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of Ibu Made sessions and the end of the last session for this webinar. And then we have the insightful, informative, and wonderful topic in the last sessions, talking on reading for young learners in online settings. So I hope that what have been done with Ibu Made is useful for you, informative for you. And okay, before I end for these sessions, I would like to give an appreciation from the committee, Ibu Made, Pak David. All right. So this is for you, Ibu Made. Please big applause for Ibu Made, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay. All right. Again and again, thank you very much, Ibu Made.
Thank you.
All right. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for stay tuned in the end of these sessions. And I'm back to you, Ibu Bilkis. The floor back to you, Ibu Bilkis.
All right, thank you very much, Bareta, for leading
right.
the discussion, and thank you very much for the wonderful explanation from Made. It was really
Thank you.
insightful, and I hope that it will be beneficial for you, especially when you are teaching young learners, when you're teaching kids, or even when you are teaching your own kids at home. I'm sure that some people here are exactly doing that, being a teacher of their own children. It can be pretty stressful at times, right? Especially during pandemic, and you have to do your own job and you still have to be the teacher of your children. Anyway, thank you one more time, Bu Made and Bu Areta. Okay, finally we come to the end of our session today, and before we end our presentation, our webinar for today, Pak David is going to share the attendance link, the attendance link either in Zoom and in YouTube. So please be patient. Pak Dave, are you on it? All right, there it is. So you have
it's been shared. Thank you.
Yes, Pak Dave. How long do we have until the link is closed? Is still the same like yesterday at 1 p.m.?
Yes, the link is going to be closed at 1 p.m.
All right,
Jakarta
1 p.m. Jakarta time. So make sure that everyone, you fill in before it runs out. You run out of time. So if you're viewing this from YouTube, please make sure to check out the link in the live chat or in the description of the YouTube. And anyone who is coming here, thank you very much for participating with us, for coming and staying tuned and stay put with us until the end of the webinar. And thank you, Prof. Waring, for being with us since morning. Thank you. Your valuable insights is really helpful and beneficial and fruitful for us. Kak Daniel as well. Hope that you are, one day we can meet in person, right? When everything is over. Prof. Waring too. We do hope that next year when you are in charge of the Southeast Asian, ER events, we will see you in the future. And Bumade as well. Thank you again and again. All right, then on behalf of the committee, we would like to say our most gratitude to every of you who are willing to stay with us until the end. Thank you very much and see you in our next webinar. Do not forget to stay tuned because by the end of August, we are going to have another webinar, wonderful webinar with esteemed speakers as well. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Warahmatullahi
Bye, everyone. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much, Prof.
Thank
Waring.
you so much,
Thank
sir.
you
Bye-bye.
so much, Kak Daniel.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
So
Bye-bye,
much,
So
Ibu.
much,
Bu
Prof.
Bilkis.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you
Prof.
very much,
Waring.
Kak Daniel.
Stay
Oh, ma'am,
powerful.
don't you need the time to screenshot everyone who is
Yes,
speaking?
I almost
Photo
forgot.
sessions.
All
Yes.
right. Oh,
Amazon.
please wait a moment because we're going to screenshot your coming here. How many pages
Okay,
do we
Bapak
have?
Ibu, there are 9 pages here, so please give me your very best smile because we don't know on what page you are going to be on. Okay, so this is the first one, smile. The second one, cheese. The third one, love. What else, Kak? The fourth one, smile. The fifth one, cheese. The sixth, smile. The second one, love. The eighth one, okay.
We ran out of ideas, Vega.
Okay, finally we come to the 8. Yeah, there are 8 pages on my screen. Okay, Bapak Ibu, thank you very much for your coming. Kak, someone asked me there is a chat in our chat room.
Yeah, chat box for the
asking
link.
about the link. Bapak Ibu, you can scroll. You can scroll the chat in our chat room. Then you can find the link of the link of the the certificate. Scroll up, please. Thank you once again, Rob Waring, for joining, for giving us
My
very
pleasure. Thanks,
insightful.
everybody. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure to have you, sir.
See you in ERAW.
Yes. See you later this week online. Yes.
Yes.
Looking
Yeah,
forward to
see you
meeting
later.
you.
See you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.